The shadow in the attic. When Emily and her husband James moved into their old Victorian house in Massachusetts, they were excited about their new home. But from the first night, something felt wrong. A strange creaking sound echoed from the attic, even though they had not stored anything there yet. One night, as Emily lay in bed, she heard soft footsteps above her. James was fast asleep beside her. She held her breath, listening closely. The steps were slow, deliberate. Then, suddenly, a loud thud. Emily sat up in terror. James woke up groggily. "What was that?" she whispered. James grabbed a flashlight, and together, they climbed the attic stairs. As soon as they opened the door, the temperature dropped drastically. Their breath became visible in the cold air. James swept the flashlight around, revealing dusty old furniture covered in sheets. Then, in the farthest corner, something moved. A tall, shadowy figure stood there, featureless but unmistakably humanoid. Its presence was suffocating. The air felt heavy. Emily let out a strangled gasp. The figure lurched toward them. James slammed the door shut. They ran downstairs, locking the attic behind them. But from that night onward, the noises continued, whispers in the dark, the rustling of unseen feet. A few weeks later, a historian from the town revealed that a man had gone mad in that house 100 years ago and hanged himself in the attic, and now, Emily and James knew, they were never alone. The woman in the mirror. Sophia had always loved antique shops, so when she found a beautiful, ornate mirror in a small thrift store, she bought it without hesitation. She placed it in her bedroom, admiring the elegant gold frame. But soon, strange things began happening. At night, she would wake up feeling uneasy, as if someone was watching her. One evening, as she brushed her hair in front of the mirror, she noticed something disturbing. Her reflection didn't move in sync with her. She blinked, her heart racing. Maybe she was imagining it. The next night, she decided to test it. She lifted her hand. Her reflection followed. Then she turned her head quickly. The reflection hesitated for just a fraction of a second before mimicking her. Terror gripped her. She covered the mirror with a sheet. That night, she had a nightmare. A woman with hollow eyes stared at her from inside the mirror, whispering, "Let me out." The whispers grew louder over the days. One night, Sophia woke up to find the sheet removed. The mirror stood uncovered. In its reflection, she saw the woman standing behind her. But when she turned around, there was no one there. She smashed the mirror the next morning and threw away the shards. But the whispers never stopped. And sometimes, in other mirrors, she still sees that woman watching her. The Crying Boy painting. In 1985, a firefighter in England recounted a chilling tale of a cursed painting known as the Crying Boy. This painting, depicting a tearful young boy, was found intact in multiple house fires, always untouched by the flames, while everything around it burned. Sarah and Tom, unaware of the legend, bought the painting at an estate sale and hung it in their living room. From the first night, strange things occurred. Objects moved on their own, unexplained cold spots formed in the house, and their cat hissed at the painting constantly. One evening, Sarah heard soft sobbing. She followed the sound, but the house was empty. As she passed by the painting, she swore she saw the boy's tears move, trickling down his painted face. That night, a fire broke out in their home. Strangely, everything was destroyed, except the painting, which remained untouched in the ashes. Terrified, Sarah and Tom got rid of it, but even now, legend says the cursed painting still exists, passing from one unsuspecting owner to another, bringing tragedy in its wake. The Vanishing Hitchhiker. Mark was driving home late at night on an empty road when he saw a young woman standing by the roadside, her white dress glowing under his headlights. She looked lost, so he stopped and asked if she needed a ride. "Thank you," she said softly. Getting into the back seat, she told him her name was Lily and gave him an address. They chatted for a while. She spoke about her family, her love for music, and how she had been at a party that night. As they approached her destination, Mark turned to ask if she needed help getting inside. But the back seat was empty. His heart nearly stopped. He had just been talking to her moments ago. Shaken, he drove to the house she had mentioned. An old woman answered the door. When Mark explained what had happened, her face paled. "My daughter, Lily, died in a car accident on this road 10 years ago," she whispered. Mark's blood ran cold. He had given a ride to a ghost. The Possessed Doll. When Lisa's grandmother passed away, she inherited a porcelain doll from her childhood. It had glassy blue eyes, golden curls, and an eerie, lifelike face. At first, Lisa didn't think much of it. She placed it on a shelf in her room. But at night, strange things started happening. She would hear soft giggles, objects would be displaced, and sometimes, she swore the doll's eyes followed her. One night, she woke up to find the doll lying on the floor. Despite having placed it firmly on the shelf, she picked it up and placed it back. But when she turned around, she heard a faint whisper, "Play with me." Lisa froze. The room was empty. The doll's lips were slightly parted, as if it had spoken. Terrified, she locked the doll in a box and buried it in the backyard. But the next morning, it was back on the shelf. Lisa never touched it again. But every now and then, she still hears the whispers at night. These stories are not for the faint of heart. Read them at night, alone, if you dare. And remember, some things are better left undisturbed.